Thanks for joining, Joe. We're going to be doing something a bit different this time. We're actually going to be looking through this book from 1852, I think. Let me make sure I got the date right on that. 1856. I'm going to drop a link. I dropped a link so you can look at this book on your own too. I'll put it in the description as well when I'm done. This is called The Book of the Aquarium and Water Cabinet. So like I said, this stream's going to be a bit different. I'm going to read this book for you, and we'll like stop and talk about it for a while. It is only 140 pages. So I'm going to finish getting set up. I'm going to grab my water, and then we'll start reading. Testing to make sure that I can be heard over the music. If you're here, let me know. All right, it sounds like everything is working well. So, the Book of the Aquarium and Water Cabinet, or Practical Instructions on the Formation, Stocking, and Management in All Seasons of Collections of Freshwater and Marine Life by Shirley Hibbard, author of Rustic Adornments for Homes of Taste, etc., etc. London, Groombridge and Sons, Paternoster Row, 1856. W.H. Collinridge Printer, 1 Longgate. Contents. I'll kind of skip over this, but it goes, what is an aquarium? Proper kinds of vessels. Fitting up rock work. Plants for the aquarium. Fishes for the aquarium. Reptiles, mollusks, and insects. Selection of stock. General management. That's for freshwater. And it goes into the marine tank. The vessel. Fitting up. Collecting specimens, the plants, the animals, what's an anemone, general management, the water cabinet, construction of cabinets, collecting and arranging specimens, the stock, larva, Coleoperida, Heteroperida, the frog, notes on management. And then this is a list of engravings, which are the images that you'll see. Preface. Every day adds to the popularity of the aquarium, but every day does not add to the accuracy of published descriptions of it, or the perspicuity of the directions everywhere given for its formation and maintenance. Lately, the periodical press has teemed with essays on the subject, but it does not require a very close scrutiny for the practical man to discern that a majority of such papers express the enthusiasm rather than the knowledge of their authors. A few weeks' management of a tank seeming to be considered a significant qualification for the expounding of its philosophy. Though it demands an acquaintance with the minutest details of the most refined departments of botany and zoology to do anything like justice to it. Hello, Aquarium Fantasy. Hello, Happy Place Aquatics. How are y'all? Okay, where was I? I have done my best to explain and illustrate the whole rationale of marine and freshwater tanks in my lately published work, Rustic Adornments for Homes of Taste. But since that work, owing to the expense incurred in its production, is published at a price which every lover of the aquarium cannot command, I have thought it no less a duty than a pleasure to treat the subject more briefly, and I hope profitably. in a volume of less dimensions and less cost, written for another class of readers. The subject of this little work is to teach the beginner how to proceed safely and pleasurably in setting up aquaria, whether for mere ornament or for the study of the novel forms of animal and vegetable life, which these collections enable us to observe closely, no less for the increase of our knowledge of the world than for the exhalation of our sense of the omnipotence and the benignity of him who created it. The Nursery, Tottenham. I am doing well. How about you, Cece? I am also doing well. Thank you for asking. I hope that this will find y'all. That y'all will find this as interesting as I have so far. Again, this is a book from the 1800s. The Book of the Aquarium, The Freshwater Tank, Chapter 1. What is an aquarium? The name, the term vivarium, was first applied to the vessel containing a collection of specimens of aquatic life. And the first vivarium of such a kind, on anything like an extensive scale, was that open to the public exhibition in the Regent's Park Zoological Gardens. Many naturalists have previously made experiments to discern some certain method of preserving aquatic animals in a living and healthy state. And the vivarium, which is the result of those experiments, may be considered as an imitation of the means employed by nature herself in the preservation and perpetuation of the various forms of animal and vegetable life, which people the oceans and the streams. Of the various forms of animal and vegetable life, which people the oceans and the streams. Do y'all see that? I don't think that makes sense. The various forms of animal and vegetable life, which the people, the oceans, and the streams. Well, the book is almost 200 years old. This book is 169 years old, so I'm sure that some of it might be lost. So I don't think that sentence was originally supposed to say that. The vivarium is, therefore, no recent or sudden discovery, but a growth of years, and its present perfection is the fruit of many patient investigations, trials, and disappointments, and determinations to achieve success. The term vivarium applies to any collection of animals, to a park of deer, a rabbit warren, a menagerie, or even a traveling show containing an asthmatic lion, a seedy cockatoo, and a pair of snakes that are hourly stirred up with a long pole. Hence, such a term could never convey the very special idea of a vessel containing such specimens as form the stock of the aquarium. When this was felt, the affix aqua was added to convey the idea of the watery medium in which the specimens are immersed. A compound of too clumsy a character to remain long in use, it is the water that gives the collection its special character, and the water always reminds us of old Aquarius, who treats us to an annual drenching from his celestial watering pot. Aquarius triumphed, and the pretty prison in which his cool companions of the sign Pisces were doomed to be confined acquire his name. And since it is better to follow than to oppose usage, we will leave the physiological part of the question to the learned and adopt aquarium as the name of our collection. I'm going to check the chat before we go on. Here. Wow, that's an old book. Yes, it's 169 years old. Project Gutenberg is such an unutilized resource. It is, and I thought it would be a great way to kind of, I know a lot of people already know what Project Gutenberg is in the hobby. I'm sure people have used it or mentioned it before, but I really wanted to bring it in as a source for a lot of hobby-related information. I think that's awesome. Also, hello. Oops, I wanted to show this one. Hello, New Local Austin. Okay, where are we? We are at this one. Let's scroll down. Okay. I don't know if y'all can still see that. Okay, there we go. Let me check. Okay. The object of the aquarium is to enable us to study the economy and derive pleasure from the contemplation of various forms of aquatic life. Contributed by the lakes, the mountain rills, and the resounding sea, collections of objects that inhabit rivers and lakes are of course called freshwater aquaria. Those that owe their origin to the sea are called marine aquaria. A more simple name for the first would be river aquarium, which I humbly suggest it shall in future be called. I'm sorry to say, but almost 200 years later, we don't generally call freshwater aquariums river aquariums. We do have river style aquariums, but I don't think that's what they meant. But an aquarium is not a mere cabinet of specimens. It is a water garden in which we cultivate choice plants, and it is also in some sort a menagerie in which we see living creatures of kinds Hitherto? What? I'm going to give y'all the definition of that because that's a word that I've never seen before. It means until now or until the point in time under discussion. Similar words are previously, formerly, and earlier. That is thorough. The least studied by naturalists, displaying to our close gaze their natural forms and colors, and instincts and economy as freely and as happily as if they were still hidden from us in their native depths. In this sense, the aquarium remunerates for any trouble it may cost in the lessons it affords of the workings of almighty wisdom in those regions of life and wonder to which it introduces us. We are now here. The philosophy of the aquarium must be clearly understood by those who propose to cultivate it. It is self-supporting, self-renovating collection in which the various influences of animal and vegetable life balance each other and maintain within the vessel a correspondence of action which perseveres the whole. A mere globe of fish is not an aquarium in the sense here indicated, because to preserve the fish for any length of time, the water must be frequently changed. And even then, the excess of light to which they are exposed and the confinement of a small space in which they quickly exhaust the vital properties of water are circumstances at variance with their nature and sooner or later prove fatal to their lives. Moving on to this. In an aquarium, the water is not changed at all, or only at long intervals, as we shall explain hereafter, and besides the enclosure of fishes in a vessel of water, growing plants of a suitable kind always form a feature of the collection. Formed on this plan, an aquarium is in imitation of nature on a small scale. The tank is a lake containing aquatic plants and animals, and these maintain each other in the water in the same way as terrestrial plants and animals contribute mutually to serve each other's support in the preservation of the purity of the air. What happens when we put a half a dozen goldfish into a globe? The fishes gulp in water and expel it at the gills. As it passes through the gills, whatever free oxygen in the water contains is absorbed, and the carbonic acid given in its place. And in course of time, the free oxygen of the water is exhausted. The water becomes stale and at last poisonous from excess of carbonic acid. If the water is not changed, the fishes come to the surface and gulp atmospheric air. But though they naturally breathe air as we do, yet they are formed to extract it from the water. And when compelled to take air from the surface, the gills or the lungs soon get inflamed, and death at its last puts an end to their suffering. There's a lot of stuff to unpack there. First of all, wow. Before I make comments on that, let's read the next paragraph. Now, if a fish globe be not overcrowded with fishes, we have only to throw in a goodly handful of some waterweed, such as the calatrichy, That would be water starwort. If anyone was wondering what that plant was. Hi, Lake to Land. For instance, and a new set of chemical operations commences at once, and it becomes unnecessary to change the water. Okay. No. Again, this book is 169 years old. So the information in it, we need to remember this is what they believed 169 years ago. So, of course, looking back on it on modern eyes, we look at this and go, the water does need to be changed. Well, I guess there's some people who think that water doesn't need to be changed. But I guess they're almost 170 years behind on the news. The reason of this is easily explained. Plants absorb oxygen as animals do, but they also absorb carbonic acid. And from the carbonic acid thus absorbed, they remove the pure carbon and convert it into vegetable tissue. We're not judging. Giving out the free oxygen either to the water or the air, as the case may be, hence, in a vessel containing water plants in a state of healthy growth, the plants exhale more oxygen than they absorb. That's not wrong. And thus replace that which the fishes require for maintaining healthy respiration. Looking at this, again, yes, 169 years ago, this book was published. To put this in perspective, this book was made in 1856 in America. Half of the homes in 1925 had electricity. So they did not have electricity. I think that's important to mention because we're reading on the methods that they used 170 years ago. And we have to realize that 170 years ago, they did not have electricity. Hence, in a vessel containing water plants in a state of healthy growth, the plants exhale more oxygen than they absorb, and thus replace that which which the fishes require for maintaining healthy respiration. Anyone who will observe the healthy plants in an aquarium when the sun shines through the tank will see the leaves studded with bright beads. They're talking about pearling here. Some of them sending up continuous streams of minute bubbles. These beads and bubbles are pure oxygen. which the plants distill from the water itself in order to obtain its hydrogen, and from carbonic acid in order to obtain its carbon. I wonder how tanks back then looked like. Well, let me see if I can find some examples. Is this one? Here, I found this. This is from thepethistorian.com, a Victorian aquarium. Aquarium, maker unknown, America, 1890 to 1910, cast and wrought iron frame, slate bottom, adhesive, and paint. Aquarium and flower stand, 1876, made by the Racine Hardware Company, Racine, Wisconsin. Advertising trade card for Dr. Moreau's Indian Root Pills, lithograph, 1880. So that's what a fish tank would look like. Here's some antique Victorian 5-gallon slate bottom aquarium fish tank with claw feet. It's a nice slate bottom. Not the prettiest thing in the world. Oops, I realized I wasn't sharing that. Here. Antique Victorian 5-gallon slate bottom aquarium fish tank with claw feet. And that's the slate bottom. Does tanks look stronger than what we have now? I have finally caught up with you. It's been a crazy week. Hello, only Oscars. How are you? Meta tanks are cool. They are super cool. I love meta tanks. I like slate bottoms. I think they're so cool. Dude, I need one with the claw feet one of these days. I think that Victorian tanks are so beautiful. They should make reproductions out of cast iron. That is a beautiful aquarium. I've never seen these for sale. Well, they come up a lot on auctions, and if you're lucky enough to be in the northeast part of the United States, you'll see them a lot when people clean out really old homes. They're also more common in Europe. I think since we're getting real close, my mom had slate bottom tanks when I was a kid, had shiny chrome frames. Those would be meta tanks, right? Meta frame. Meta frames. These. The vintage meta frame, aquarium huge, 3 feet stainless, fish tank slate bottom with stand, $900. That's a meta frame. Did you know that metaframe tanks aren't perfectly straight? We can see in this one that it doesn't have straight. It's not straight. It's actually like trapezoidal. In the 60s, I loved her seahorse tank. Yes, that's what she had. Awesome. Okay. I'm going to try and get through the first chapter of this, and then we'll kind of talk about the chapter. So I'm going to start over. I think we didn't start this one yet. We're on. There is one more feature which no writer on the aquarium has yet noticed. Namely, when a tank is properly stocked, the water soon gets crowded with infusorial animalculae, which swarm among the plants and on the sides of the glass in countless thousands. Visible only by the aid of the microscope, these are in accordance with a natural law. The presence of vegetable matter in water always induces them. But observe their value. They contribute to the sustenance of the smaller fishes by supplying them with food. And strangely enough, the researchers of modern chemists have proved that these minute creatures respire in much the same way as plants, while all other animals absorb oxygen and perish if the supply of that gas is withdrawn. These minute organisms absorb carbonic acid and give out oxygen in abundance. This has been proved by Professor Liebig, who collected several jars of oxygen from tanks containing infusoria only. Everyone who has had experience in the management of tanks must have noticed that the water in a tank, which has been established for some months, will sustain a much greater amount of animal life than one of the same dimensions but recently stocked. The presence of infusoria in the in immense numbers is one of the reasons for this. These next three are going to be quite short, so I'll read them all together. But they're talking about infusoria, which we know a lot more about now. I'm going to read the rest of this chapter and then I'll check comments again. So far, I have endeavored to explain the theory of the aquarium in the merest outline. Still, brief as this chapter must be, I must here impress upon the mind of the beginner that unless the leading features of the theory are borne in mind, success can never be achieved in the establishment of water collections of any kind. If a tank requires frequent cleansing or frequent changing of water, if the fishes come to the surface for air or perish through the presence in the water of offensive matter, in fact, if the whole affair has not a distinctly self-supporting character, such as will preserve its purity and strength and beauty without alteration of any kind, it must be concluded that it has been either unskillfully stocked or unjudiciously managed. It is my object to explain briefly but clearly the whole rationale of aquarium management. Whether the tank be adopted as a mere ornament, than which there is nothing more beautiful, or as a museum of instruction and a school of study, than which there is nothing more suggestive, nothing that can afford finer lessons of the subtlety of the forces, or the refinement of the instincts that give life and loveliness to the world of waters. So we have finished what is an aquarium. Chapter 1. Weren't those individually made? I'm not sure. They're on the plants. The infusoria. Yeah. I think it's interesting that they talked about infusoria. Checking in on the beautiful Madako real quick. The slate tanks is what I was asking about. I'm still not sure. I have a Victorian tank. I need to replace everything with, and those were handmade. Individually. I'm not sure. I would guess that the Metaframe tanks were a combination of handmade and machine made. I was not allowed to touch her tanks. Yeah, that's sad, but I can understand that. I think I want to look at all the engravings because I feel like it took me 45 minutes, almost an hour, to read 48 pages. I'm sorry. It took me 45 minutes to read 4 pages. So what I'm going to do is we'll go through all the engravings, and then next week we'll work on chapter 2 and 3, maybe 4. And then, yeah, so this week we went through the first chapter and we'll go through all the engravings. And then next week we'll go through chapter 2 and 3, maybe 4. And then we'll figure it out from there until at least we get the freshwater stuff done. And then we can kind of browse through the marine and the water cabinet section. So that's what I think we'll do. And I might go after. I might try and either go a little bit earlier and do 2 hours, or go later and do 2 hours, so we have enough time. But I'll figure that out. All right. This is the first. This is an engraving. Stractolides, altolides, Vallisneria spiralis. More plants. Gudgeon, Prussian carp loach, and bream. Minnow, tench, and perch. I'm not going to pronounce that. I've seen some slate tanks. Cool book. This is a nice one. Are those 10 and 20 gallon tanks? Let's see if they say. So this is these are like snails and mollusks depicted in these tanks here. And that's a minnow somewhere, a tench, and a perch. I think that the one on top is a minnow next to the biggest fish on top. Clams are making a way back in the hobby. Some saw some for sale, not as food. That's interesting. I wonder how big these tanks are. Because this looks very small. This looks very small. This looks very, very small. Let's go down here. That's where we are, I think. Porcelaina something and something crabs. They're crabs. Diving spider and nests. Mom had one of each. The 10-gallon was on its small side. This is an aquatic spider that we're looking at right now. That's terrifying. I didn't know there was aquatic spiders. I'm getting itchy thinking about aquatic spiders. Let's move on. Dragonfly. Mom had one of each. The 10-gallon was on the small side. I know she ordered those tanks. That's awesome. I don't know anybody, like personally, who had gotten the tanks themselves. Oops. Let's go back. Alright, move on. Dragonflies. I kind of want to... Hold on. Diving arachnids can breathe underwater. A diving bell spider has snagged a water flea and it's consuming the prey inside the air bubble chamber. So yes, it does blow an air bubble. underwater gallery diving spiders. Are water spiders the next big thing? I can't imagine a water spider, like people just keeping them like aquatic isopods. No, aquatic spiders, aquatic isopods. Too much. It's too much for me. Okay. Let's let's move on from the diving spiders. We looked at the dragonfly engravings. Larva of the gnat. Larva. Case fly. Beetles. Water beetles. Frogs. Looks like this is the end. You know they'll get out. I don't want to think about that. Oh no. I love spiders, but gosh, those things freak me out. They're too intelligent. I figure if they traveled on plants, I would have them by now. Yeah, I think that they're very specialized, not very common. Like aquatic isopods. People don't typically get those from bringing plants in or anything. I'd assume that you would have to collect things from outside to get them. I mean, I think that in somebody else's home, it might be an interesting thing to see. This is why I like reading old books. We get to have the pleasure of being introduced to diving spiders. Excuse me. The drawings are awesome. Yeah, they are. They're these are engravings. So they carved this out and then pressed it into the book when it was printing. So that's like 1,000 times more cool, I think. I've seen a couple vendors put aquatic plants in display jars. It looks great, like this picture. Could you imagine having like a ton of little tanks and stuff on a specially built cabinet like this? This is so Victorian era. It's not even funny how Victorian era this is. Intricately carved. It's interesting, yeah. All right, well, next week we'll get started on chapter 2 and 3. I'll probably put it up as Aquatic Archives number 5, part 2. But I highly recommend I'll post the link again. And again, for my replay crew, I will put it in the description of this video as well. I believe I would. I also have a calliope. I don't know if I said that right. A calliope. I was watching Price Tag earlier, and he's like, alder cones and ruby roo. I'm not sure if I'm saying those right. I'm like, I don't think it matters. I know what you're talking about. I can't say half the words in English, especially when they're related to fish keeping stuff. I'm so bad at it. I know how it's written. Let's see. Okay. I got the circus organ thing. The circus. Okay. We'll see. I'm gonna look it up. The calliope is a loud North American instrument that uses compressed air or steam to produce sound through large whistles. Yeah, I've seen this. I know what that is. It's now 10:47. I have about 10 minutes before I'm going to get off of here. Okay. Next week, we'll do part 2, where we'll look over chapter 2 and 3. And then, but before that, on Sunday, I'm streaming at my normal time at 10 Central. And I don't know what we're going to be talking about yet. I love doing that. I have a few topics on mine. We'll figure it out. Most of the ones I've seen were in old cartoons. The Calliope things, I'm guessing. Yeah, that makes sense. I'm also going to be looking for the book that she mentioned, the author mentioned in the beginning. I am working on posting more on my Instagram. I am working on 2 long-form videos. I am working on doing Medaka Mondays, where I post a short video of my Medaka with a fun fact or something about them. I think it's all going to be like shorts, so I can like consistently do them. But I will be doing Medaka Mondays starting next week. So stay tuned for the Medaka Mondays and 2 long-form videos coming up. One of them is a review. The other one is kind of like a hodgepodge of things about Medaka. I've been waiting to get my ponds up and running and looking nice, but that's going to take forever. So I'm just going to post with what I have and talk about as much as I can, and then I'll probably make a part 2 when my ponds look better. All right. So Sunday, 10 p.m. Next week, we'll do chapter 2 and 3. I might start earlier. Or later. I'll figure it out by Sunday. I hope you enjoyed this different route that I'm taking with this. I found this book when I was searching through um, ideas for like really old books. And I was able to find it on Project Gutenberg, which is amazing. I'll look for a couple others. I'm not going to post this before I forget. I posted it on Instagram. On Instagram? No. I posted it on my Discord. If you want to join the Discord, here's the link. But I assume this will take up this book and probably the same author, the book before this one, which is more detailed, will take up the whole month of April for Aquatic Archives. So I hope that you enjoy this. And I think that's it, right? I think, yeah. I talked about everything I needed to talk about. Did y'all happen to watch the snail stream that I posted? It was 24 hours long, waiting for snails to hydrate. That was interesting. I think that right before I turned off that stream, one of the snails had fully came out. What I'll do is I've kept it pretty much in the same area, and on Sunday we'll check back in with the snails and see how they're doing. Because as much as I love like watching them, I think that it's a little much to not be able to use my computer. I'm gonna have to find another way to do that. Also, I was looking back at some of the footage and it's just really blurry. So I will figure it out. If you don't know already, yes, depending on how long they've been out of water, eventually bladder snails will rehydrate. I'm just kind of using this as a point, right? To how we typically get these in our aquariums. Especially when they're super small and we don't notice them on plants in like little crevices and stuff. Because when they're babies, they are extremely small. And then they grow up and then you have a bunch of bladder snails. Our friend New Local Austin is going live in approximately 5 minutes. I have posted the link. Go click notification on so you get notified as soon as he goes live. And we'll figure it out. I highly recommend, if you cannot make it to the Sunday stream, to at least watch like the first couple of minutes or the last couple of minutes to see, and I will let y'all know either at the beginning or the end my plans for next week's Aquatic Archives. But until then, I hope y'all have a wonderful week. Rest of your week. I will see y'all in the comment section and in other people's live stream chats. Don't forget, in 10 days, just 10 days, I am going to be a part of the auction on Stephen P's channel, and you have the ability to bid on a custom artwork from me, and all the proceeds go to Foxy and Peplin's wedding fund. If you look on my like posts page here, I have it all linked out and everything. I, as of yesterday, stopped taking new commissions, and I won't open commissions again until after the artwork has been completed from the auction. You may message me to get on the wait list starting April 13th, so the day after the auction. If you would like art, please message me April 13th to get onto the waiting list. And if you message me, say wherever it is, you can go into my bio or under this video and click on my link tree. I have my Instagram and my email linked there. If it's an email, just put the subject as art, and I will just tell me in the main message that you want to be put on the waiting list. Instagram, the same. You can be put on the waiting list. I will give you a Google document that outlines everything for you. So that's basically like my terms of service. I finally put it together cleanly, so I'll give you that. Then we'll start our process after I'm finished with the auction winners, highest bidder person's artwork. And then once that is finished, I will I'll open commissions again. I do have a goal for commissions, and that is to help me go to the Keystone Clash. I will be doing discounted commissions starting from May 1st. No. I think so, yeah. But it's like 5% off. Anyways, email me, message me on Instagram for more details if you are interested in my art. Also, head over to the auction on the 12th and bid on it if you'd like to get my art and also help Foxy and Pepper. But it is now 11 o'clock, so I will see y'all over at New Local Austin stream.